Hey there, thanks for watching. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the progress I've made toward financial independence in the last year or so. If that's something you're interested in watching, then just stick around. About a year ago, I posted a video called Fire, I Got Burned. So that's Financial Independence, Retire Early, I Got Burned. This was a very casual video of me just sitting in my car, riffing about my experience with the FIRE community and why it was negative and why I was thinking about giving it another try. So this fast became one of the most popular videos on my channel, and I was really happy that it was doing so well. At the same time, I got a ton of criticism, A, for my personal style, B, for the video not being focused and organized, and C, for me just not knowing what I was talking about. A lot of this criticism was warranted because at the time I didn't know what I was talking about, and I couldn't honestly say that I'd given the financial independence retire early movement a full chance, that I hadn't really looked into it and explored it in my own life. Because this was such a popular topic, I wanted to learn all I could about the actual principles of FIRE and then see how they would fit best within my own circumstances, my own goals, and my own personal financial values. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at my own history, what's happened in that year since I posted that video, and then what's changed for me, how I applied what I learned about the financial independence retire early movement. So my own history with personal finance starts when I hit rock bottom, finding myself $17,000 in consumer and auto debt and no job. I had no steady income. I had about $13,000 in credit card debt and $4,000 on an auto loan, and I had no idea how I was going to make payments. I was living at home at the time, and I was making my way through with kind of odd jobs, like I was babysitting or I was answering phones for a friend's dad's company, and so I was kind of like limping along, and I had a longer term goal in mind. So I did have a plan to get a job, but I had no kind of stopgap measure, and this is what landed me in debt. To be clear, it wasn't that I bought anything big or I didn't have super outlandish or unusual spending habits. I just wasn't keeping track of the little day-to-day things and what I would need to cover my expenses. This was an incredibly stressful and terrifying time for me. It was for sure a death by a thousand cuts situation, and I didn't even realize that there was a knife involved. All of a sudden, I wake up and I have $17,000 in consumer debt. It was terrifying. I got into this debt simply by not paying attention to how much I was spending and how much I would need to survive. I felt really disappointed in myself for not paying closer attention, and I felt like I'd let my family down, that I let myself down by just not paying attention. I felt out of control and a little bit crazy, but this was the moment I knew that I wanted to do something different to have a different outcome. So that was my rock bottom wake up moment, and from that moment, I changed some things in my life that put me on the path toward a more secure financial future. Here are the steps I took to get myself out of consumer debt. So that's $13,000 in credit card debt and a $4,000 auto loan. Step number one, I stopped going any further into debt. And it might sound silly and kind of obvious, but this actually took a little bit of planning. Because I was using my credit cards just to cover my daily living expenses, like buying groceries or putting gas in my car, I actually couldn't live without using my credit cards for a week or so. And that's the time that it took me to build up enough to be able to pay for those things in cash. I really returned to the basics of food and transportation, and that's it, in order to survive through this period without going further into debt. Step number two, I got a job with a steady income. I had been planning for this during that period when I realized I had $17,000 in consumer debt, but it took some time for me to apply for and earn the job that I was looking for. Once I had this job, I had a steady income coming, but that kind of 3 to 5 month period when I didn't have a consistent income was really harrowing, and I didn't see it coming. Once I got a steady income back in my life, that was huge. And if you want more information on the steps that I took to get a steady income, you can check out this video where I share my process on how to get a job in 30 days or less. Step number three, I tracked my expenses and my spending, and I figured out exactly how much I needed to cover my expenses. So I knew how much I needed to bring in order to cover what I had going out. Again, this is very, very basic, but it is critical to do. And at that time, I just wasn't keeping track. I wasn't in touch with my numbers. I didn't know how much much I needed or how much I needed to bring in. And just that tiny bit of awareness would have made all the difference. And it's something that I do today out of habit. Step number 4, after knowing my expenses and how much I needed to cover my day-to-day living, I started throwing big chunks of money at the debt. Again, this is pretty basic, but that's how I did it. Nothing fancy, I just got it done. And again, this is key to know how much I needed to survive on a daily basis so that I wasn't going further into debt. All told, it took me about 2.5 years to pay down $17,000, $13,000 on a credit card, and a $4,000 auto loan. And during that time, I was making about $30,000 a year. During this time, I was also making minimum payments on my student loan. I had a combined $50,000, I know it's a lot, with my undergrad and my graduate studies combined, and I managed to pay that down from $50,000 to about $12,000. So the remaining amount I have is $12,000 on a 2% interest. This brings me to present day and my current situation and the progress I've made in the past year toward my goal of financial independence. Financial independence is my ultimate goal, and by that I mean that I'm able to cover my basic living expenses from the passive income or dividends that my investments are throwing off. Here are the steps that I've taken toward financial independence in the last year. Step number 1. I've run some numbers to determine my financial independence number. That's the amount that I'll need in my investment portfolio to throw off a reasonable amount of interest that will be able to cover my basic living expenses. The thing is, I earn a pretty modest income, so the number I'll need in my investment portfolio is fairly modest too. So while I'm definitely doing lean fire, that is, I don't have a huge income to be throwing huge amounts into savings, my expenses are also pretty modest too. I can live pretty frugally and still save about 20 to 25% of my income to grow a portfolio that will eventually be able to cover a larger and larger portion of my basic expenses. Step number 2, I increased contributions to my employer-sponsored retirement plan. This is just very basic. I'm on my way to contributing the max amount allowed this year, and again, this is very basic, but this is a solid, steady, safe, fairly reliable method toward long-term financial independence. It's kind of like the Toyota Camry of investment plans. Step number 3, I've learned what I can about investing and fund distribution, and I've made some small changes that I'm comfortable with that have increased my rate of return. So when I started the beginning of last year, I knew nothing about what was in my investment plan, and now I know a little tiny bit more than nothing. And I was able to make some moves in my plan that moved my rate of return from 7% to 25%. I know that last year was far from typical, that not every year will be like that. However, I am confident and I'm pretty proud that I was able to make those changes in order to capitalize on the growth that the market saw toward the last half of last year. Item number 4, I am hustling. I am earning more money with the specific purpose of investing in order to get to that financial independence number faster. This is kind of tough because for me, when I'm earning the money, I want to see immediate returns. I am tempted to either use it to invest in, if I'm running a hustle, like a side hustle, to reinvest in that side hustle, or I want to spend it. So this is taking discipline for me to earn money with the specific intent to invest and be able to bring that financial independence date and number closer to reality. I think the biggest change in the past year is that I'm starting to get more pleasure from seeing my savings rate grow than by spending the money that I have. That's a very simple, very basic change, but it's one that I know will bring me closer to financial independence in the long run. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know down in the comments what your financial independence plan and progress looks like so far. I love hearing from you guys because that's another thing that I've learned is that the people that comment on my videos are some of the smartest people ever. So if you've commented before, I thank you for sharing your opinion. And once more, I hope you'll keep watching. Bye.